Lena stood at the corner of Fifth Avenue, her heels clicking against the pavement with a steady rhythm that felt out of place in the chaos of the moment. The world around her blurred, people rushing by, absorbed in their own lives. Her heart beat louder than the hum of the city, a constant reminder that today would decide everything. She glanced up at the towering glass building in front of her, the headquarters of the company she had worked for the last 10 years. Her mind flashed to the countless late nights, the missed anniversaries, the times her children's voices had become a distant echo as she worked on deadlines and proposals. Yet she had always told herself, this is temporary. The sacrifices were meant to build a better future, a future where she could give them everything she hadn't had. But as she stared at the sleek facade of the building, Lena realized that her now had been slipping away unnoticed. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was a message from her husband, David.
Kids miss you. Dinner at 7? Let me know.
Her thumb hovered over the screen, torn between replying and continuing her vigil at the crossroad. What was the right choice? Her mind went back to the conversation she'd had with her boss earlier that day. The one that had pushed her to this tipping point. Stephen had said, his tone laden with excitement.
This promotion is yours. We just need you to take on one more project, a major one. We're talking an international client. Think of the recognition. The advancement. You'll be on top of your game.
She remembered the way her pulse had quickened at the thought, the glitter of ambition in his words tempting her like a siren's song. But in that moment, something inside her had also screamed no. It wasn't enough anymore. The promise of success, of validation, had started to feel empty. Her children's faces, their quiet pleas for her attention, haunted her more than the tantalizing prospect of a new title.
David, I'm stuck.
She whispered aloud, her words barely audible amidst the city's cacophony. She needed someone to give her an answer, to tell her what to do. But all she had was herself, standing in the middle of a crossroads, unsure which way to go. The light changed, and pedestrians surged forward, their steps unburdened, certain in their direction. She felt a pang of envy. They knew where they were headed. They had purpose. But Lena? She stood frozen, caught in a moment of indecision, the weight of her choice pressing down on her chest like a leaden weight. Was she being selfish to want more? To crave recognition for her work? Or was it more selfish to abandon her family for something that didn't even feel fulfilling anymore? Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it. A mother, a young child by her side, struggling to carry a large, overstuffed bag. The child, no older than 5, tugged on her mother's sleeve.
Mommy, I don't want to go to school today.
Lena's heart clenched. The mother, her face tired but kind, knelt down to meet her child's gaze.
You have to go, sweetheart. We'll see each other later, okay? I promise.
The child's face fell, but the mother's resolve was unshaken. Lena couldn't help but wonder, was that what she was doing to her own family? Promising things that she never quite delivered? Was she running after an ideal, leaving her loved ones behind in the process? Her thoughts were interrupted by the vibration of her phone once more. Another message from David.
Lena, don't forget, the school play is tomorrow. I'm not sure if you'll make it, but the kids would love to see you there.
That was it. The moment when it all hit her. The realization that while she was busy chasing her career, her children were growing up without her. Her mind flashed to last year, when she'd missed her daughter Ella's recital because of an urgent business trip. Ella had cried that night, asking why her mom couldn't be there like other kids' moms. And Lena had promised, next time I won't miss it. But next time had never come. Now the school play loomed on the horizon. Would she be there this time? Lena's hand trembled as she typed a quick reply, her heart heavy with guilt and frustration.
I'll try to make it, David. I promise.
But even as she sent the message, she knew she wasn't sure. She didn't know how to keep that promise anymore. Her priorities were changing, and yet she couldn't seem to let go of the ambition that had once fueled her. She wasn't ready to walk away from everything she had built, but she wasn't sure how to balance it all. As the light turned green, Lena took one last look at the building in front of her. Then, with a deep breath, she turned and started walking in the direction of the park, the weight of her decision still hanging over her like a storm cloud. Today, she was at a crossroad, and the choice ahead of her seemed like a chasm. Would she leap? Or would she let the moment pass? The evening sun cast long shadows across the dining room as Lena sat at the table, a half-eaten salad in front of her. The house was quiet. The children were in bed, David was cleaning up in the kitchen, and the silence seemed to press in on her. She absent-mindedly twirled her fork, her thoughts far away. The hum of the refrigerator and the sound of David's footsteps were the only things breaking through the fog in her mind. Then, unexpectedly, she was transported back to a childhood moment, a memory that had been buried for years, resurfacing with an intensity that took her breath away. Lena was 7, sitting on the worn carpet of her mother's apartment. It was a cramped space, the kind where you could hear the neighbors' footsteps through the thin walls. The kitchen was always bustling with the sound of pots clattering, the hum of the microwave. But the real noise came from the constant hum of her mother's voice over the phone.
I'll be home soon, Lena. Just a little longer.
She remembered her mother's face. Tired, always on the phone, her eyes distant. There were moments when her mother would glance over, offer a quick smile, and then go back to her work. But there was never a real conversation. The moments they could have shared were stolen by the pressures of survival, of bills to pay, of opportunities that seemed just out of reach. Lena understood even then that her mother was doing everything she could. But what did it mean if her mother's efforts came at the cost of time with her? What was the price of success? In the kitchen, Lena's mother had always been a figure of strength, but there was also a loneliness in her eyes. One evening, when Lena had been sitting at the kitchen table, her homework half done, she had asked,
Mom, when can we go to the park? I want to ride my bike.
Her mother had stopped, looked at her with that same distant gaze, and said softly,
Not tonight, sweetie. Maybe next weekend.
And like always, next weekend never came. The promise of something better, something brighter, hung in the air between them, but it never materialized. Lena shook the memory off, but it clung to her. As much as she tried to move forward, she could still hear her younger self asking, why wasn't she enough to make her mom stop? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of David coming into the dining room. He hesitated before speaking, his voice cautious.
Lena, we need to talk.
She met his eyes, seeing the concern etched into his face. She knew this conversation had been a long time coming. It wasn't just about her late nights or missed weekends. It was something deeper, something unspoken between them for too long.
I know you've been working hard.
David said quietly, sitting down across from her.
But I can't keep doing this alone. I can't keep being the one to handle everything while you're chasing something that doesn't seem to be enough for you either.
Lena felt her stomach drop. This wasn't just about a career anymore. This was about the life they had built, the family she had promised to protect and nurture. She had buried this conversation for so long, thinking if she worked harder, if she climbed higher, things would be better. But now she realized things weren't better. They were unraveling.
David, I'm doing this for us.
She said, her voice strained, her hands gripping the edge of the table.
You know that. Everything I do, all the hours I put in, it's for our future. For the kids, for...
He cut her off gently, his tone soft but firm.
I get that, Lena. But at what cost? The kids, they don't even recognize you anymore. And I miss you. We both miss you.
Her heart clenched. The weight of his words, of his quiet frustration, hung in the air between them like an unspoken truth. She had thought she was doing the right thing, sacrificing for the future, but in doing so, she had neglected the present. She was so focused on building something for tomorrow that she had forgotten to cherish today. The room grew silent as they both sat there, the tension building, neither knowing how to bridge the gap that had grown between them. Lena stood up suddenly, feeling suffocated by the four walls closing in around her.
I don't know what you want me to say, David. I don't know how to fix this. How can I just walk away from everything I've worked for? Everything we've worked for?
David's voice was calm, but the hurt was evident.
I'm not asking you to walk away, Lena. I'm asking you to come back to us. To be present. That's all.
Lena felt a sharp sting in her chest. She had always been taught to fight for her dreams, to push through, to sacrifice whatever was needed. But now she was realizing that the one thing she had been fighting for, success, was slowly pushing her family away. Her phone buzzed again, another reminder from work. But this time she didn't look at it. She couldn't. Instead, she walked out of the room, her footsteps slow and deliberate, as if she were walking through her own uncertainty. She found herself in the living room, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. The moment felt heavy, the silence now all-encompassing. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, the same words from her childhood. I'll be home soon. Just a little longer. But how much longer? The thought hung in the air, unanswered. The night had drawn in, and the soft glow of streetlights filtered through the blinds. Lena sat on the couch, her phone gripped tightly in her hand. Her mind buzzed with confusion and guilt, the day's events replaying in a loop. She had just finished an exhausting conference call with her boss, who had casually reminded her of the high expectations for her upcoming project. The deadline loomed like a storm cloud, while the quiet pressure at home continued to build. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the conversation with David. He wasn't angry, not really, but the disappointment in his voice had stung more than she expected. The kids, Ella and Max, they were growing up and she was missing it. The faces of the parents at their school plays, cheering their children on, feeling present in their kids' lives, all contrasted sharply with the feeling she had of being on the outside. The quiet guilt crept in again, the same guilt that had been haunting her for years now, the feeling that she was failing them. Lena's phone buzzed again. It was a message from Rachel. Rachel had been her best friend for over 20 years, a constant in her life. Lena stared at the screen for a moment, the urge to reach out and seek comfort battling with her pride. Rachel had always been the one who grounded her, the one who listened without judgment, but she also knew Rachel had her own life to deal with. Still, she couldn't keep carrying this weight alone. With a deep breath, she tapped out a quick reply.
Can we talk tonight? I don't know what to do anymore.
It wasn't long before the phone rang, Rachel's name lighting up the screen. Lena answered immediately, her voice cracking slightly despite her attempt to keep it steady.
Hey, Rach. I'm so glad you called.
Lena, what's going on?
Rachel's voice was instantly warm, but there was a note of concern there that didn't go unnoticed.
You sound like you've been through the ringer.
Lena leaned back against the couch, letting the exhaustion wash over her.
It's everything, Rach. Work. Family. I'm stuck, and I don't know what to do. I've been trying to be the perfect mom, but I feel like I'm failing at it. And work, it's not enough anymore. But I don't know how to let go. How do you choose between the two? I can't seem to do both.
There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Rachel's voice was calm when she spoke again.
Lena, you know you don't have to choose, right?
Lena sat up straighter.
What do you mean? Of course I do. I either focus on my career or my family. There's no middle ground.
Rachel sighed softly, the sound of her breath carried through the phone.
That's the lie, Lena. We've been taught that to be successful, we have to choose, that we can't have it all. But I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can have both. You just have to do it your way, on your terms.
Lena blinked, a sense of disbelief creeping in.
Your way? How? I've tried everything. Every time I get close to finding balance, something falls apart. It's like I'm running on empty, and no matter how much I give, it's never enough.
Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why you're doing all of this?
Rachel's voice was steady, almost a challenge.
Is it for the right reasons? Or are you just running after a version of success that you think you should want?
Lena's breath caught in her throat. The question hit too close to home. 4 years she had defined success by her job, by the accolades, by the recognition she thought she needed to feel validated. But in that moment, Rachel's words made her realize how much of it had been a chase for approval.
I don't know anymore.
Lena admitted quietly.
I just know that I've been pushing myself so hard, trying to prove something to everyone.
Rachel's tone softened.
Lena, listen to me. You've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And yes, you've done amazing things, no one can take that from you. But you've also neglected the things that matter the most. Your kids. David. Yourself. You're burning out. You can't keep running at this pace forever.
Lena was silent for a long moment, the truth of Rachel's words sinking in like a stone dropping into water. She had been so focused on her career, her external success, that she had lost sight of the internal peace she once had. The moment of clarity that Rachel had offered felt like a light at the end of a dark tunnel, but Lena wasn't sure how to follow it. The fear of letting go of what she had worked so hard for gripped her like a vice.
I don't know how to walk away from all of this.
Lena whispered, her voice breaking.
I'm scared I'll lose everything.
You won't lose everything.
Rachel reassured her.
You'll just gain more. What you're really afraid of is losing yourself in this never-ending pursuit. And that's the scariest part of all.
Lena wiped her eyes, not realizing the tears had fallen.
I don't even know who I am without it all, Rachel.
Rachel's voice softened even further.
That's exactly why you need to take a step back. Find out who you are again, for you. Not for anyone else. Not for the title, or the career, or the expectations. For yourself.
Lena swallowed hard, the weight of it all threatening to collapse her. But there was something in Rachel's words, something that made her believe maybe it was possible to find herself again. The promise of a new beginning, of reclaiming her life outside of deadlines and emails, was both terrifying and liberating.
Thank you.
Lena whispered, finally feeling like the storm inside her chest was beginning to calm.
I'm always here for you, Lena.
Rachel said warmly.
But remember, you can only pour from a full cup. Take care of yourself first, and everything else will fall into place.
The next few days felt like a blur. Lena's mind was caught between the desire to meet her professional obligations and the overwhelming need to be there for her family. She found herself staring at her laptop screen, the cursor blinking endlessly, unable to concentrate. The pressure to finish the international project weighed on her, but it was the thought of missing another school play, or Ella's ballet recital, that gnawed at her. It was as if the universe was asking her to make an impossible choice, and with each passing hour she felt more trapped. One late afternoon, Lena took an impromptu break from her chaotic work schedule. She had become adept at making excuses, conference calls, urgent emails, but today she couldn't bear to keep running away from the decision she had to make. The office felt suffocating, and the constant ping of notifications seemed louder than usual. She grabbed her jacket, told her assistant she was stepping out for a moment, and walked out of the office. As she stepped into the cool autumn air, the world felt different, almost peaceful yet distant. Her mind was racing, and she needed a moment of stillness, a break from the noise. The park was just a few blocks away. Lena often walked there when she needed to think, when the demands of her life became too overwhelming. The rustling of the leaves as they blew across the path, the laughter of children playing in the distance, brought a sense of calm to her mind. She found an empty bench near a small pond and sat down, staring at the water, her thoughts swirling like the leaves in the wind. As she sat there, lost in the quiet, she noticed a father and his young son playing frisbee on the grass. The father's laughter rang out light and free, as the boy giggled uncontrollably, running after the frisbee that flew just out of his reach. Lena watched them for a moment, captivated by their connection. The way the father's eyes softened every time he looked at his son, how the boy's face lit up with every throw, it was a pure, simple joy, something Lena hadn't felt in years. She couldn't remember the last time she had laughed with her own children like that. Even when she was home, her mind was always preoccupied with work. The sound of the frisbee being thrown echoed in her mind, like a bell ringing in the distance. This is what I've been missing, she thought. This is what truly matters. Her mind shifted to the years she had spent pushing herself relentlessly. The long nights of paperwork, the meetings with clients who barely knew her name, the endless emails, the awards she had accumulated. And for what? So that she could prove to others and maybe to herself that she was capable. A sharp pain of guilt hit her chest. She had sacrificed so much of her own joy, her own peace of mind, for something that didn't feel fulfilling anymore. The constant hustle had become an addiction, one that kept her going even when she didn't know what she was chasing anymore. She had told herself that it was for her family, for their future, but now, sitting on the bench in the park, it didn't feel like enough. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket, pulling her out of her reverie. She glanced at the screen, half expecting it to be her boss or another work-related notification. But when she saw David's name, her heart gave a little jolt. It was a message, and her fingers hesitated before tapping it open.
I miss you. I think the kids miss you too. It's been a long time since we just sat together as a family. The school play is tomorrow. I'm not sure if you'll make it, but they'd love it if you could. We'd love it. Please, if you can.
Lena's hand shook slightly as she read his words. She could almost hear the quiet plea in his message. And in that moment everything clicked. The weight of her decision, the pull between ambition and family, became clearer than it had ever been. She wasn't being asked to choose one over the other. She was being asked to show up, to be present, to find balance. She had been so consumed by the need to achieve, to prove herself, that she had forgotten the most basic truth. The moments with her family, the ones she had been missing, were what truly mattered. It wasn't the titles, the recognition, or the success at work that defined her. It was the love she gave, the time she spent, and the memories she created with her family. Lena stood up, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The park around her seemed brighter, the sounds more vibrant. She felt as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to run anymore. As she walked back toward the office, she made a decision. She would finish the work she needed to do, but she wouldn't sacrifice her family's happiness for it. She would set boundaries, protect her time with them, and find a way to balance both worlds. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be challenges ahead, but she knew it was the only way forward. She would go to the school play tomorrow. She would be there for her children. For once, she wouldn't let the demands of her career steal those moments away. The clarity she felt was almost overwhelming, like a fresh breeze after a storm. The decision had been made. It wasn't a matter of giving up one for the other. It was about creating a life that honored both. And for the first time in a long while, Lena felt at peace with that choice. The morning of the school play arrived, and the house was buzzing with energy. Lena had decided, without hesitation, to take a step back from her work for the day. She had called her assistant earlier to delegate the tasks that needed urgent attention and blocked off her schedule. For once, the pressure to perform at work seemed distant. Today it was all about the play, about her family, about now. Lena stood in the kitchen, sipping her coffee, her fingers trembling slightly as she tried to focus on the task at hand, helping the kids get ready. Ella's red dress, with its soft tulle skirt, lay neatly on the kitchen counter, while Max's suit jacket was hanging on the back of a chair, still a bit too big for him. The thought of them performing on stage, their small voices filling the room, brought a warmth to her chest. She hadn't been to many of these events in the past year, too consumed by her professional life to notice how much she had missed out on. David came into the kitchen, a smile tugging at his lips. He was already dressed in his suit, looking every bit the proud father, and there was something in his eyes that made Lena's heart ache. He didn't say anything at first, but the way he looked at her spoke volumes. The space between them, which had once felt like an insurmountable distance, now seemed smaller. A quiet understanding had settled over them, one that wasn't just about words, but about actions.
You're really doing it, aren't you?
David said. His voice soft but filled with a quiet admiration. Lena smiled back, her eyes flicking to the kids. Max was trying to button his shirt by himself, the concentration on his face almost comical.
Yeah. I think I am.
David chuckled, but there was a tenderness in his gaze.
You sure you can leave work behind for the day?
Lena took a deep breath.
I can. And I will. I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not today.
David stepped closer, his hand resting gently on her shoulder.
I think that's the first time I've heard you say that. I like it.
The tension in the room seemed to melt away, replaced by a shared sense of peace. This moment, this quiet exchange, was the beginning of something new for them both. As they finished getting the kids ready, Lena felt a sense of accomplishment, not for the project she had been working on, but for something much more important, being present in the lives of the people she loved. They made their way to the school, with Max and Ella's excitement palpable in the back seat. The car ride was filled with chatter about their roles in the play, their nervous energy spilling over into the air between them. Lena listened closely, her heart full, realizing that this was the part of life she had been missing. The small moments, the little conversations, the way her children's personalities were unfolding before her eyes. This was what mattered most. When they arrived at the school, Lena was struck by the feeling of nostalgia. The large auditorium was filled with parents, grandparents, and siblings, all gathered to watch the school's annual performance. The walls were lined with posters, each one depicting different scenes from the play. The children's faces glowed with excitement as they waited backstage, their nerves palpable, but Lena could sense the joy that came with sharing such an important moment. Lena and David found their seats in the front row, where the best view of the stage awaited them. The lights dimmed, and the chatter quieted down as the play began. The room was filled with the soft rustle of programs and the occasional cough, but it was the hushed breath of anticipation that Lena felt most. Then the curtain rose. The kids, dressed in their costumes, stepped onto the stage with an innocence and excitement that was both endearing and captivating. Max was one of the first to step forward, his eyes scanning the audience, and then he saw them. He smiled, a big, proud smile, as his little voice rang out in the opening lines. Lena's breath caught in her throat. She had never seen him like this, confident, happy, and in his element. He was no longer just her little boy. He was becoming his own person. Ella, too, shone brightly in her role, her voice clear and strong as she delivered her lines with perfect timing. Lena couldn't help but feel a lump form in her throat as she watched her children on stage, realizing that time had moved so fast. They were growing up, and she had almost missed it. But today, right now, she was fully present. As the play continued, Lena felt her chest tighten with emotion. There were no distractions now. No emails, no deadlines, no meetings to rush off to. For the first time in what felt like years, she was truly here. She wasn't thinking about her career, about the next step, or about anything outside this moment. After the play, as the children joined them in the lobby, there was a shared excitement in the air. Max was practically jumping up and down, while Ella was beaming with pride.
Did you see me, Mommy? I did it. I remembered all my lines.
She exclaimed, her face glowing with the happiness of accomplishment.
I saw you both.
Lena said, her voice thick with emotion.
You were amazing.
David wrapped an arm around Lena's shoulders, pulling her close.
You did it, too.
He whispered. Lena looked up at him, surprised.
What do you mean?
You came back. Not just for them, but for you, too. This is the real success. This is what matters.
Tears welled up in Lena's eyes, and for a brief moment, she let herself feel the full weight of everything she had been holding in. She had been so focused on external success, on achieving things outside of her home, that she had forgotten the most important part of life. It wasn't about the awards or the recognition. It was about these moments. About being there for her family, about cherishing the time she had, and about realizing that balance was possible. The drive home was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that felt peaceful, the kind where no one needed to say anything to understand the depth of what had changed. As they pulled into the driveway, Max and Ella began chattering excitedly about the play and their plans for the weekend. Lena and David exchanged a glance, and she felt a sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. As they settled into bed that night, Lena felt more at peace than she had in a long time. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be without its challenges. There would still be moments of doubt, moments when the balance between work and family would feel like a tightrope walk. But she had taken the first step toward finding harmony. She had chosen to show up, not just for her family but for herself. And that was the greatest gift she could give them. Tomorrow would come with its own set of demands, but for now, Lena allowed herself to be still. She closed her eyes, her heart full, knowing that the path forward was no longer a choice between success and family. It was a balance, one she was now ready to embrace.